Could you already be in perimenopause without even realizing it? Many women in their 40s and even mid to late 30s dismiss the subtle signs as stress or just a busy life. But what if your body's trying to tell you it's more than that? Hello, and welcome to Sacred in Bloom. I'm Natalie, and I'm a transformational coach. And I am passionate about supporting women and empowering them in midlife. Whether you want to feel better in your changing body, improve relationships, enhance intuition, or just figure out what's next, you're in the right place. Today, we're tackling a question I hear in my coaching practice, and it's all over social media conversations. How do you know if you're in perimenopause or menopause? Some of the initial symptoms might surprise you, so we're going to cover those, and I'm also going to provide some tips and resources for moving forward. Whether you're just starting to notice changes or you've been suspicious for a while, this episode is for you. So get comfortable and let's have a chat. I've noticed that many women are familiar with the term menopause, but very few are familiar with perimenopause or postmenopause. So let's just clarify those terms real quick before we jump in. Let's start with menopause. A surprising number of women define menopause simply as the years in midlife when your hormones change. To quote Inigo Montoya, "You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means." Menopause is one day in your life. Just one, a blip. And it's that day when 12 consecutive months have passed without you having a period. That's it. The average age for that event for most women in the United States, according to the National Institute on Aging, is 52, but there's a wide range. Everything that happens after that blip is actually called postmenopause. So when someone says, "I'm in menopause," what they usually mean is postmenopause. It's a little like calling your 21st birthday your whole 20s. It's just not quite right. So perimenopause is the 2 to up to 10 years before menopause when your ovaries are working their way toward retirement. And your hormone levels, your estrogen, progesterone, and even testosterone, start to go a little wild. For most of us, this is when symptoms actually kick in. Some lucky women hit menopause and barely notice. You may be one of those blessed women. For the rest of us, it can start as early as your mid to late 30s and as late as your 50s. I started having symptoms around 38 or 39, and I'm still having them now at 47. Whee! The key takeaway here is that perimenopause is a process, menopause is an event, and postmenopause is a phase of life after that event. Hormones do tend to stabilize in postmenopause, but getting there can be quite the ride. So if you're just getting started, don't panic. You're not alone, and there's a lot you can do to make the ride smoother. Now that we're all on the same page about what everything means, let's dive into the signs your body might be giving you. We're going to start with physical symptoms and then move into some mental and emotional ones. Every woman's experience is different, but here are some of the most common ones to keep an eye out for. Irregular periods. Many of the women I've coached have noticed irregular periods as one of their initial symptoms. Irregular doesn't just mean your cycle length. You might have lighter periods for a few cycles and then a really heavy one. You might skip a month or two, and some women experience near constant bleeding for months on end. This is the kind of bleeding that can make it hard for you to live your life. If you have unpredictable, heavy bleeding, treatments like ablation can help manage this. Ablation is a surgical procedure where they intentionally damage the lining of your uterus so it isn't able to build up and slough off your uterine lining anymore. Basically, you stop having periods, you stop bleeding, but you have all your other PMS symptoms. I had a partial hysterectomy a couple of years before starting perimenopause, so I didn't have this symptom. Since I still have my ovaries, I continue to have all of the other period symptoms, just no bleeding. I've also always had really irregular period cycles my whole life, so it's made it really challenging for me to be able to tell whether or not I was having a period. It can be helpful to start tracking your symptoms with an app or a journal. Skin and hair problems. You might think that your hair starting to turn gray is what you should be watching out for. I'm not saying that won't happen, obviously, but what you need to look for may be a little less obvious. Is your hair thinning? Are you noticing more hair fall in the shower or on your brush? What about your skin? Are you starting to have more breakouts, or maybe your skin is just really dry? Are you noticing more wrinkles or less bounce in your skin? Studies show that during the first 5 years of menopause, women lose, on average, about 30% of the collagen in their skin. According to the American Academy of Dermatology, your collagen levels continue to drop by about 2% each year for the next 20 years. There aren't a lot of studies about what's happening in perimenopause, but do you hear me when I say that if you want to protect the collagen in your skin and hair for as long as possible, you really need to know when you're hitting perimenopause. So, what causes this rapid aging in your face and makes your hair thinner? It's hormones, primarily estrogen, but there are other hormones at play here too. So you can spend hundreds of dollars on creams and stuff, but if you're not addressing your hormonal changes, you are fighting an uphill battle. If you don't want to do hormone therapy, there are estrogen creams that are topical, so that means you just apply it on your face. They don't affect your internal hormone levels. I use one and I love it. I will link it for you in the description. Let's talk about hot flashes and night sweats. There are a lot of doctors and their female patients who believe that hot flashes and night sweats are the first symptom of perimenopause. According to what I found on the web, approximately 75% of women have hot flashes during perimenopause, and only about 20 to 40% have night sweats. That means 1 out of every 4 women has never had a hot flash. May you be one of those lucky women. If you do end up having them, they're not always an initial symptom. For me, I didn't actually start having them until I was 2 or 3 years in, and then they only happened to me between 9:30 and 10 in the morning. Aren't bodies so weird? So my point here is that even if you aren't having hot flashes yet, that doesn't mean you aren't in perimenopause or that you wouldn't benefit from hormone treatment. Sleep issues. Even if you aren't having night sweats, perimenopause can still mess with your sleep big time. You might notice that you're having difficulty falling asleep, waking up in the middle of the night, or waking up earlier for the day than you really want to. Your risk of developing sleep apnea also increases during this time, which can not only interrupt sleep, but contribute to fatigue and brain fog, and some other symptoms that we are going to get into here shortly. Some women also develop restless leg syndrome. Isn't this fun? Let's talk about weight gain. Have you been eating the same way and just staying just as active, but suddenly the scale won't budge, or maybe it's creeping up? Maybe you're eating more and chalking it up to stress. There's a surprising reason why this happens during perimenopause, and it has nothing to do with willpower. You may not realize this, but estrogen causes the hips and thighs fat distribution in women. So when it drops, many women notice that they actually get bigger around the middle. Estrogen also helps regulate your metabolism, and it interacts with your brain's hunger centers to let you know when you're full and manage your appetite. It also supports your insulin sensitivity. So when your estrogen drops, it can cause higher blood sugar levels, which in turn tell your body to store fat. Another huge factor here is that when your estrogen levels start to fall, your body tries to compensate for that by increasing your cortisol levels. Cortisol is a stress hormone. So higher cortisol leads to increased fat storage, more hunger, junk food cravings, higher blood sugar levels, stress eating, and disrupted sleep. But the impact of cortisol doesn't stop there. Have you recently found yourself suddenly feeling overwhelmed, your heart racing, or like you can't catch your breath more often or in more intense ways than you used to? I had some anxiety before I went into perimenopause, but when my hormones started to change, it was a whole different ballgame. If you've noticed this too, welcome to one of the most common initial symptoms of perimenopause, anxiety. And that leads us right into the mental and emotional symptoms. The drop in estrogen, the increase in cortisol, and the decrease or even just fluctuations in your progesterone, which is another important female hormone, all lead to many women having no chill. I went from relatively manageable anxiety to having multiple full-blown panic attacks that sent me to the ER because I was sure that I was dying. I have also had heart palpitations pretty regularly and ended up having to wear a heart monitor for a couple of months. When that didn't turn anything up, I went under anesthesia for my cardiologist to take a look around with a catheter. Thankfully, everything looked okay. And what we finally figured out years later in hindsight is that these episodes with my heart being weird were almost certainly tied to my hormones going bonkers and causing me massive anxiety and panic attacks. The reason we think this is true is because the menopausal hormone therapy, or MHT, they stopped. Even if you aren't having panic attacks, you may be feeling more stressed, more overwhelmed, less patient, and just less emotionally resilient. You may find yourself feeling like you just can't handle everything on your plate anymore like you used to. And you keep thinking this will pass, so you don't take anything off your plate. Maybe you feel like you can't because of guilt, lack of support, or that hyper independent streak. I've been there. As a quick aside here, I'm working on a course right now for women going through this to help them get out of overwhelm and back into joy. So stay posted for that. If you want to be notified when this is ready and to get support and free resources along the way, go to sacredandbloom.com and sign up for my free monthly newsletter. You don't have to do this alone. Okay, on to more symptoms. If you aren't struggling with anxiety, feeling more reactive or less grounded, you may be experiencing low mood or feelings of depression. So when estrogen decreases, it directly affects your neurotransmitters like your serotonin and your dopamine, the little helpers that help regulate your mood. So when they're low, it can actually make it difficult for you to focus, plan, or juggle your task load. You wake up feeling exhausted even after a full night's sleep. If you're struggling with low mood, please go check out my video on saffron. I'll link it here when it's available. Estrogen also directly affects your memory and cognition. Like there are literally structures in your brain that suffer when they don't get enough estrogen. Estrogen also supports synaptic plasticity and the formation of new neurons in the hippocampus, which is the memory part of your brain. This is why you may be experiencing memory lapses and brain fog. With low mood, fatigue, and brain fog, you or your doctor's first thought might be that you're just experiencing some depression, especially if you're in your late 30s and early 40s, because most of them have no idea when perimenopause actually starts or what it looks like. I am not giving you medical advice, but if you are experiencing a lot of these other symptoms that we've discussed here, and you are a candidate for MHT, it is worth considering before getting on a prescription antidepressant to see if your symptoms improve. You can always come back off of it. I have seen too many women go to their doctor with these symptoms in their 30s and 40s and just get put on an antidepressant because their doctor isn't digging into their symptoms. Not only are there some negative side effects that come along with these prescriptions, but you risk not treating the root issue, which is potentially the low estrogen. This is kind of like numbing a broken arm instead of setting and casting it so that it can heal. Don't get me wrong, there is a place for antidepressants. I have taken them a few times when I needed that support. I'm just strongly urging you to consider that they might not be the right tool for the job at this time in your life. Again, please go check out my video on saffron. It's been a game changer for me and many others. Many women are hesitant about MHT because of the propaganda from 2002 following the results from the Women's Health Initiative at the WHI. You may have heard of a large-scale study funded by the National Institute of Health, or NHI, about HRT, or now called MRT. I know time is getting weird for us Gen X and elder millennial gals, but that was over 20 years ago and a lot has changed. Briefly, the study was retracted by the people who did it because it was a crappily designed study, and new studies show that it's actually much safer for women to take hormones than originally thought. Anyway, I'm just planting a little seed there for you to be open to some new information if hormone therapy is currently something that freaks you out. So, now that we've explored the symptoms, let's talk about what you can do to start feeling better besides just hormone replacement, since you may not be ready or a candidate for that. These are 7 key strategies. They're things that you can begin today to take back control of your body and your life. First is track your symptoms. Write down your symptoms daily for a while, including mood, energy levels, sleep patterns, and menstrual cycle changes. This can help you start to re-engage with your body and have more awareness of what's going on. It can also be a fantastic thing to bring to your doctor to help them understand what's happening and to help you advocate for yourself. This one is so important that I have created a free tracker for you. And there are two versions, a printable and a Google Sheet you can save a copy of and edit. All you have to do is go to sacredandbloom.com/tracker and I'll email it to you right away. Balance your nutrition. Eating a nutrient-rich diet tailored to hormonal health can significantly reduce symptoms. I'm not a dietitian, and I encourage you to work with one if that's what you need. These are some things that are backed by science. Phytoestrogens. These plant compounds mimic estrogen and may help balance your hormones. You can find them in flaxseed, soy, nuts, and seeds, some grains, fruits, and even vegetables. Healthy fats. Omega-3 fatty acids from safe fatty fish, walnuts, and flaxseed. These help reduce inflammation and support your brain health. Protein. Protein helps maintain muscle mass, stabilizes blood sugar levels, and you have to have enough protein to be able to produce neurotransmitters. So it's really important. Magnesium and calcium. These can help alleviate muscle cramps, promote relaxation, improve sleep, and support your bone health. Vitamin D. This one is actually more than a vitamin. It's what's called a prohormone, meaning that it can behave as a hormone and as a precursor for other hormones. That means it participates in regulating your insulin levels, your cortisol, and your estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. I'm going to include my blog post with my Amazon affiliate links for the supplements that I take in the show notes in case that's helpful for you and you'd like to support my channel. But please speak to your medical provider before starting any new supplements to make sure that they're appropriate for your specific health situation and needs. There are a few things to avoid, and you probably know these, but they're worth repeating. Excess sugar and refined carbs can worsen your mood swings and your fatigue. I know this is a tough one because your hormones are against you here, but it does help. Caffeine and alcohol can trigger hot flashes and contribute to sleep disturbances and increase weight gain and increase depression and anxiety. I know it's tough. I love my coffee too. Maybe just cut it down. Move your body. You probably know that exercise is great for reducing stress and boosting your mood, but what if I told you that certain types of exercise might actually be doing the opposite? The intensity of your workouts could be affecting your hormones in ways you maybe didn't expect. So let's talk about it. I mentioned earlier that when your estrogen starts to drop, your body tries to compensate by increasing your cortisol. This is the stress hormone that can have a range of negative effects on your body and your mind. When it's elevated for long periods, it increases fat storage, particularly around your middle, like we talked about. It disrupts sleep and it suppresses immune function, so you may get sick more easily, and nobody has time for that. Mentally, high cortisol levels can heighten feelings of anxiety, irritability, and overwhelm, while also impairing memory and focus over time. So how does exercise factor in? I'm going to geek out here for a minute. When cortisol is already high, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or HPA axis, which is what regulates your stress response, goes into overdrive. Your body pumps out cortisol to help you get through high intensity or long duration workouts, which is great when your stress levels are normal and your nervous system is functioning correctly. However, if your cortisol cup is already full, that's a problem. So what can you do instead? Research suggests that lower intensity, lower duration, and extra recovery time between workouts may be easier on your cortisol levels. This could look like just walking 20 minutes a day instead of maxing out on the elliptical for 45 minutes. It could look like putting on some music and just dancing or moving your body in ways that feel good. I saw a study that showed that dancing for, I think it was 20 minutes a day, was more effective for depression than any antidepressant on the market. Fascinating. Strength training is my favorite, but I have found that my cortisol does better if I do like 20 to 25 minutes of lifting several days a week instead of going to the gym for, more than an hour. This means activities like HIIT or spin classes may no longer be your friend. But everybody's different, so play around with intensity, activities, and duration and figure out what works for you. Just know that you may need some adjustments. And don't worry, even with shorter sessions, you can still build muscle, boost your metabolism, and protect your bone density. Mind body practices like yoga, Tai Chi, Pilates, or some of the somatic therapies that I do can help reduce cortisol levels, so those are great options too. Okay, about that cortisol. So, we talked about some ways moving your body helps your body to burn off cortisol instead of increase it. But there are some other ways that you can tell your body to stop pushing cortisol too. Managing stress is essential. And if you have not been making time for this previously or pushing through and thinking that you'll do it later, your body's probably telling you that later has become now. If that's how you're feeling, here are a few things that you can do, even for just 5 or 10 minutes, a few times a day, that can help make a difference. Meditation and mindfulness. Daily practices are great to help calm your nervous system. Breathing exercises. Deep diaphragmatic breathing has been shown to alleviate hot flashes and reduce anxiety. Somatic therapy. Practices like tremoring or slow somatic movement release stored tension, improve emotional regulation, and help heal your nervous system. I have a lot of material here on that, so stick with me. The somatic therapy practice has really been a game changer, and I'm going to be adding some somatic therapy videos to my YouTube channel that can help you with this, so be sure to subscribe. I have a few videos about this that I will link here. Let's talk about sleep and rest. Good sleep is critical to reducing fatigue, brain fog, and irritability. Another thing that's important is creating a routine. Go to bed and wake up at the same time every day if you can. Optimize your environment. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet. Wind down. Avoid screens before bed and create a calming bedtime ritual. Natural supports. To promote relaxation, consider magnesium glycinate or herbal teas like chamomile or valerian root. I also like a catnip tincture in my tea at night. It's not just for your feline friends. Speaking of supplements and herbal remedies, certain supplements can help alleviate common symptoms. Talk to your doctor. But black cohosh, studies indicate that it may help reduce hot flashes and night sweats. Ashwagandha has been shown to potentially balance cortisol and reduce anxiety, although be careful if you have hypothyroidism. B vitamins may enhance energy and cognitive function. Evening primrose oil can help relieve breast tenderness and mood swings. Again, always check with your medical provider before starting any new supplements. And last but not least, you need to advocate for yourself. Most doctors get almost no training in med school about perimenopause. That means they know very little about how to identify it or help manage it. If your doctor dismisses your concerns or jumps straight to antidepressants, consider seeking a second opinion, preferably from someone experienced in treating hormonal changes. Here are a few resources for you. Remember to jump on my mailing list to get your free symptom tracker and some other upcoming free goodies by visiting sacredandbloom.com. Be sure to subscribe to my channel for guided meditations, somatic exercises, and some other educational videos to help manage stress, improve your sleep, and to help both your body and mind feel better. The book, The New Menopause by Dr. Mary Claire Haver, I'll pop my Amazon link down below for that. It's a great book and has so much information. I hope this has given you some information to help you start feeling better. Remember, you're not alone and you have the power to make this part of your life great. If there was value here for you, please leave a comment, and consider sharing it with friends who may be struggling with midlife stuff. Together, we can navigate this phase of life with grace, strength, and hopefully some humor. Until next time, take care of yourself. It's your time to bloom. I'll see you next time.